Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into the invisible engine that literally drives our daily lives. I'm talking about mental well-being. Now, if you follow this space, you already know how absolutely crucial it is to look way beyond just the purely physical metrics of health, right? So today, we're going to really break down the mechanics of mental maintenance. We'll look at why our internal systems get so overwhelmed, and more importantly, the specific, everyday frameworks we can use to hit the reset button.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt that sudden massive spike of worry right before a huge exam or maybe before you have to speak in public? Your heart is just racing out of your chest? Well, that is a perfect, everyday example of our mind taking total physical control. It's a completely normal biological signal for sure, but it's also a warning light flashing on the dashboard. It shows us that if we aren't proactive about our mental maintenance, those little acute spikes can easily mutate into really heavy chronic burdens.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Understanding our mental health. 2. The ripple effect of stress. 3. Recognizing common mental challenges. 4. Daily steps for better health. And finally, number 5, breaking the mental stigma.
All right, Section 1. Understanding our mental health. The invisible half of our well-being.
Think about it like this. Society aggressively champions physical upkeep. We all know the exact protocols for eating well, hitting the gym, or going to the doctor when we're sick. But the other side of that exact same coin, how we actually process our thoughts, regulate our feelings, and deal with everyday problems, it frequently gets ignored. We honestly just forget that our mind demands the exact same level of deliberate, daily attention as our physical body.
Because at its absolute core, mental health is essentially the operating system for how we think, feel, and process those problems in life. This isn't just some abstract, touchy-feely concept. It is literally the ultimate bottleneck for what we are capable of doing. A healthy baseline dictates whether we can execute deep work, study effectively, or really enjoy our relationships. On the flip side, a degraded baseline, well, that almost guarantees burnout, isolation, and just constant heavy fatigue.
Moving on to Section 2, the ripple effect of stress, how small worries cascade. So what actually happens when we ignore this mental maintenance? Well, the consequences compound, and it's basically a domino effect. It usually starts with just too much unchecked stress from our environment, like intense pressure from school or a tough project at work. That friction bleeds over and actively wrecks your sleep quality. Then, chronic poor sleep guarantees you're going to have major next-day tiredness. And that cognitive fatigue? It completely ruins your ability to work properly or handle any new challenges that pop up. It's a self-reinforcing, continuous downward spiral if we just let it go unmanaged.
Which brings us to Section 3, recognizing common mental challenges. You are not alone.
Look, we are all pretty familiar with the core triad of friction here. You've got stress, which is that immediate pressure from school, work, or family demands. Then there's anxiety, where you're constantly worrying about the future or things you literally cannot control. And depression, that really heavy, prolonged feeling of sadness or losing interest in things you used to love. I want to emphasize this. Experiencing these pressures is incredibly common. Millions of people face them every single day. So the goal here is never to just outrun them, because you can't. The true goal is building up a framework to actually manage them.
All right, time to focus on solutions. Section 4. Daily steps for better health. The upward climb.
7 to 8. If you take away anything today, let it be this number. Securing 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of all of this. Without it, your cognitive defenses are completely breached before you even get out of bed. Actually, getting this specific amount of rest is the #1 way we clear out mental fatigue and keep the brain fresh and resilient. Now, to reverse that downward spiral we talked about earlier, we have to use intentional daily actions. And they don't have to be massive life changes. Things like exercise or just getting out into nature actively metabolize those built-up stress hormones. Talking to a friend, it literally shrinks the perceived size of your problems. Having dedicated hobbies acts like a cognitive defrag, relaxing an overstimulated mind. Deep breathing acts as a manual override to calm you down when anger or worry spike. And of course, eating healthy food physically fuels the brain. These aren't just nice little suggestions. They are the fundamental building blocks of genuine mental resilience.
But hey, sometimes those baseline habits just aren't quite enough to stabilize the system, and that is perfectly normal. When that happens, logic really needs to take over. Think about it. If you wake up and you're running a high fever, going to a doctor is just a reflex, right? Well, it should be the exact same reflex for our minds. If you are feeling way too sad or stressed for too long,
Asking a counselor or a professional for help isn't some sort of system failure. It's utilizing the exact same common sense logic as treating a physical bug.
This leads us perfectly into Section 5, breaking the mental stigma, a sign of strength.
Let's just say it loud and clear. Taking care of your mind is a sign of strength, not weakness. That old myth that cognitive maintenance somehow means you're fragile, it is just objectively false. Confronting your internal friction head-on requires immense courage. And by normalizing these open conversations, we create a world where everyone can operate at their absolute best, without all that unnecessary shame or hesitation holding them back.
I want to leave you with this final thought. If you want to be truly healthy, take care of your body and your mind. Because when the mind is strong, everything else becomes easier. It's so true, isn't it? When your mind is fully optimized, everything else in your life scales right along with it. We all constantly schedule time to maintain our physical health. We grind away at our careers. We work on our relationships. So, are you actually giving your mind the attention it truly deserves?